There's a version of portfolio review that happens in under 3 minutes. The owner opens it, scans the first 2 pages, and already knows whether they're going to continue or close it. Most applicants assume that's about talent, that the reviewer is making some intuitive, feeling-based judgment about raw skill. But the more you understand how working shop owners actually review portfolios, the more you realize they're checking for specific, repeatable things. The same things, in roughly the same order, every time. That's what this video is. The actual checklist, not a vague list of things to keep in mind. A specific set of criteria you can sit down with your own portfolio right now and check yourself against before you submit it anywhere. Pull yours up if you have it. By the end of this, you'll know exactly where it stands. The first thing a reviewer checks is whether the volume is appropriate. And for most portfolios, it isn't, usually because there's too much in it. The most common instinct is to show everything, to demonstrate range and effort through sheer quantity. What that actually does is force a reviewer to dig through work that dilutes your strongest pieces. And they're not going to do that. They're going to judge the portfolio by the weakest thing they see. 12 to 15 pieces is almost always the right number. More than that, and you're probably padding. The second check is quality consistency. Not whether every piece is your best work, that's not realistic, but whether the quality within the portfolio is relatively even. A portfolio that swings between impressive and mediocre from page to page signals that the impressive pieces might be outliers, rather than a reliable baseline. If you have one extraordinary piece and everything around it is noticeably weaker, that extraordinary piece might actually hurt you because now a reviewer is wondering which version of you is the real one. Third, technical fundamentals. This is usually the first thing a tattoo-specific reviewer looks for that a general art reviewer might not. They're looking at your line work, whether your lines are clean, consistent, and controlled, or whether they wobble, vary in weight randomly, or lose confidence mid-stroke. They're looking at your shading, whether you understand how to build value from light to dark smoothly, or whether your shading looks patchy and unresolved. And they're looking at your composition, whether the elements in each piece are placed deliberately, or whether the work just fills space without clear intention. You don't need to be perfect at all 3 of those, but you need to be passable at all 3, because a serious gap in any one of them raises a flag about what your work will look like on skin, where you can't erase and start over. Fourth, style range. A portfolio that shows only one style, even if it's executed well, tells a reviewer that you can probably only do one thing. That might be fine for some shops, but for most, versatility matters because client requests are varied. You should be showing enough range across subject matter, line weight, and overall aesthetic that a reviewer can't predict exactly what every future piece you make is going to look like. You're trying to demonstrate a foundation that can flex, not a single product. Fifth, presentation quality. This one has nothing to do with your art. It's about how you photograph or scan the work, how consistently it's formatted if it's digital, and how physically maintained it is if it's a printed binder. Blurry photos, work photographed at an angle with shadows across it, pages that are crinkled or stained. All of that tells a reviewer something about your habits and your attention to detail. The work itself might be excellent, but the message being sent is, this person doesn't notice things. That matters in a craft where detail is everything. Sixth, page order. Most portfolios start with mediocre work because the applicant organized it chronologically or randomly, and their strongest pieces are buried in the middle or at the end. Reviewers make a first impression in the first 30 seconds. Open with your single strongest piece, follow with your next 2 or 3 strongest, then move into your range demonstrating work, and close on your second strongest piece. People remember what they see first and last. Everything in the middle is context. Seventh, at least one process page. This is the item most applicants skip entirely because it feels like showing weakness, like you're including unfinished work. What it actually does is show a reviewer how you think, not just what you can produce. A rough sketch next to its finished version, a reference image next to a composition adaptation. Anything that demonstrates that there's intentional thinking behind the output, not just copying or tracing. 1 or 2 of these pages does more to differentiate a portfolio than another polished final piece. Eighth, and finally, coherence. After a reviewer has seen all your individual pieces, the last question is whether the portfolio feels like it comes from one person with a developing voice, or whether it feels like a collection of random samples. Coherence doesn't mean every piece looks identical. It means there's a through line, a consistent sensibility, a recurring level of craft, an evident point of view. If you can feel that in your own portfolio when you look at it as a whole, a reviewer usually can too. So here's the checklist in order: appropriate volume, quality consistency, strong fundamentals across line work and shading and composition, style range, clean presentation, smart page order, at least one process page, and overall coherence. Most portfolios fail 2 or 3 of those. Not all 8. Knowing which 2 or 3 is the information you actually need. If you've gone through this checklist and you want a genuine second opinion from someone who reviews portfolios for a living, that's part of what we do as part of our apprenticeship program. The application link is below.